Hey, what's going on YouTube land? It's your boy TJ and welcome to my YouTube channel, Wrestling Nostalgia, where I give my reviews on the WWE shows and PLE events. But today, I want to talk about the former pro wrestler, the legendary, the iconic Chyna. Yes. And I wore the shirt just for this video. So let's go ahead and get right into it, right? Chyna was roughly in WWE probably about 5 years, under 4 or 5 years, and made one hell of an impact in the pro wrestling world, being the first woman to compete in a male-dominated industry in the pro wrestling world. She is the first woman to ever compete in the Royal Rumble match, first woman to ever compete in a King of the Ring tournament, and actually made it to the quarterfinals. She also was the first woman to ever hold the Intercontinental Championship twice. Three times if you count that one time that it was a draw between Chris Jericho and Chyna. But they're on record, it's twice. She also won the women's championship at one point in time, which was her last stint in the pro wrestling world as far as WWE goes. And fun fact, she also competed in New Japan Pro Wrestling. A lot of people don't know about that, but she did. Chyna have done it all and seen it all in WWE, and also have done television and movie roles and things of that nature in entertainment. But unfortunately, she did pass away about almost 10 years ago. I want to say 8 years ago, back in 2016. And her memory still lives on in WWE and have inspired a generation of women to become a pro wrestler. Jade Cargill even named Chyna as one of her inspirations, being as though Jade is a little bit more of a muscular built woman, and she grew up a lot muscular, and people kind of made fun of her for that. It gave her the confidence to see somebody like Chyna be more muscular and say, oh dang, you know what I'm saying? Like she gave that aura, like she was confident and she was beautiful and she was doing her thing, you know what I'm saying? And it gave Jade that confidence to be like, you know what? She rocking it. I could rock that too.
Who were some of the classic wrestlers you looked up to growing up?
Chyna. Chyna was my girl. She was my girl.
God bless the dead.
She was my. But see, I learned from her.
Yeah.
She ran with the name Chyna. She was stripped of her name, and then it was like an identity thing.
Okay.
So I learned from previous wrestlers and for the previous generation to represent myself, and nobody can take my name. This is my name. Right. Nobody's gonna take my name from me. Like I said, I have an LLC. Like I'm gonna get into acting and all this stuff. So it's important to learn from the previous generation that is prior to you. But Chyna was my girl. Like I looked to her. I grew up muscular, so I used to get picked on a lot, and people used to say, "Oh, she's so muscular. She looks like a man." All this kind of stuff. And I would go to my grandmother, and she would breathe confidence in me. And your support system at home is important. And I would see this girl on TV, this woman on TV, and I'm like, God damn, she looked good. Like, she looks great. Like, she's owning it. Look at that confidence. Like, her aura will come through the screen. And it just made me do nothing but love who I was.
And Chyna's influence in WWE is still being seen today. We could even see it through Rhea Ripley. She even dressed like Chyna at the Payback pay-per-view last year. So you can still see to this day that Chyna's influence in WWE is still being shown. And I think what made Chyna stand out more than any other woman in WWE was the fact that she was a little bit more on the muscular side. Definitely when she first came out, because when she first came out, she looked more like, had that bodybuilder like physique. And she showed that she could be dominant and she could be menacing and that, and she could wrestle and throw the men around and take her bumps and lumps in the ring as well. Over time, she wound up going through somewhat of a transition in her body, and then she wound up slimming out and had more of a womanly shaped body. And she showed that she could be feminine and she could also show that femininity and bask in that femininity and be a woman and more woman-like. And she also posed on Playboy. She was androgynous in that way where she could play both parts, where she could be more on the womanly side at certain times, and then she could be more on the masculine side. So I think that's what made her stand out in the professional world of wrestling, and that's what a lot of people kind of was attracted to, was because she was able to play both parts, and that made people more intrigued with her character, and people still cared whether she was heel or face, that people still had a lot of love and respect for her because she had a lot of love and respect for the industry and for the business and for the professional wrestling world, and it showed on camera. So I want to get into some of her most noteworthy feuds, at least in my opinion, right? Which was against Triple H, Jeff Jarrett, and Chris Jericho. I want to get into Triple H, right? So back in 1999, I want to start right at Valentine's Day Massacre, the pay-per-view event. So they had a rivalry because Chyna decided to strike out on her own, and she wound up going with the corporation. So they ended up feuding and was beefing for about like a couple of months or maybe a couple of weeks. And they wound up in a tag team match, which was Chyna, Kane versus Triple H and X-Pac. Chyna ended up pinning Triple H in that match thanks to Kane. He choke slammed Triple H. 1, 2, 3. She got the victory.
For the ride, choke slam, and Kane is rolling Chyna. This is a crime. This is a damn crime.
And fun fact, she actually beat him 3 times. And is the only woman to this day, she is the only woman to beat Triple H 3 times. The only woman. Yes, you can look it up. She was the only woman in WWE history to beat your former world champion. At that point in time, you didn't win any world championships, but she beat him. So I'm going to skip on into August of 99. This is around the time that SummerSlam was coming about. And Chyna was involved in a triple threat match for the number 1 contender spot for Stone Cold Steve Austin's World Championship. She ended up pinning Triple H thanks to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He hit Triple H with a steel chair. He put Chyna over Triple H, 1, 2, 3. She pinned him, and she was the number 1 contender of Stone Cold Steve Austin's World Championship. And this was deemed to be the battle of the sexes at SummerSlam. Chyna versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was very interested in seeing how that was gonna formulate. But if you're wondering why the match never happened, this is what happened. So Chyna and Triple H ended up feuding, and Triple H tried to, woo her over and was like, yeah, remember I did this, that, and the third for you, and I just want to know if I could get a world championship number 1 contender match with you and me in this ring later on tonight. So she said, let me think about it. No. He said, listen here, you little ungrateful bitch. You're going to give me what I want, and the hell with all that. And she said, you give it a shot, Triple H. But quite frankly, I don't think you got the cojones to beat me. So they ended up, later on that night, for the 3rd time, she beat him. Thanks to the help of Mick Foley. Mick Foley came out with steel steps and hit it on Triple H, and the referee doesn't see this. They were about as deaf, blind, and dumb as they are nowadays, back in 1997 and now. So, yeah, nothing changed. So she wound up getting the pin. He comes out, and he challenges her. She says no and low blows him. But the commissioner, which put her in the triple threat match the week prior anyway, comes out and says, well, I got a thing for Mick Foley. I got a heart for him. And, yeah, you're going to have to put your number 1 contender spot up and fight him again. And I was all like, really? So she lost. This was a chaotic time in the pro wrestling world. This is the Attitude Era, mind you. So this was a very chaotic point in time in wrestling. So she ended up putting her number one contender spot up. She lost. Then he wound up putting it up, and it was a triple threat match at SummerSlam. You can look it up because I guess Triple H and Mick Foley, I think, were in a double pin, so they wound up sharing the number one contender spot. So that's why that happened. Anyways, that ended their feud there. So I want to get into her next feud, which was against Jeff Jarrett. I'm actually going in order too. Jeff Jarrett wound up going on this sexist tirade where he was above all these women and wanted to put them in their place and things like that, including Chyna. So he ended up in a match against Chyna for the Intercontinental Championship. And this is where Chyna won the match originally. The decision was reversed because another referee came out and brought it to the other referee's attention that Deborah came out and hit Jeff Jarrett with the guitar. So it was deemed a disqualification and he retained his Intercontinental Championship. So the decision was reversed and Chyna wound up wilding out and beating up all the referees and left the ring. So they wound up having a rematch at No Mercy, which is again 1999, and a Good Housekeeping match. This was one of the most critically acclaimed matches, one of her best matches to date that Chyna have had. They burnt the house down and really put on a really great show. Originally, he won the match, but the decision was reversed because he hit Chyna with the Intercontinental Championship belt, and this decision was restarted as a rematch. So Jeff Jarrett was furious and frustrated, and he tried to put the referee in a figure four. She ends up hitting Jeff Jarrett with a guitar, which I guess the guitar is a household item. So she hits him with the guitar, pins him 1, 2, 3, and is the first woman in WWE history. And to this day, she is the only female Intercontinental Champion. And this was the first time she ever won a men's championship. And I believe her first championship that she ever won in WWE. Let's get into her next feud, which was against Chris Jericho. So with her feud against Chris Jericho, his whole beef with her was that she is making the men of WWE look bad and he's here to save the WWE and that whole stick. So they ended up culminating their rivalry at Survivor Series. This match was kind of not all of that good. It was kind of sloppy a little bit, but it wasn't horrible. It was not a horrible match by far, but it could have been structured a little bit better. She ended up winning this match with the top rope pedigree, which to this day, I've never even seen Triple H do this. So she winds up hitting the top rope pedigree, 1, 2, 3. She won the match and retained her Intercontinental Championship belt. And mind you, Chris Jericho at the time said that if Chyna won this match, he would become a broad, a woman. He would have the surgery. You can look at Chris Jericho now. He obviously didn't stay true to his word, but hey, it is what it is. So Chyna ended up again fighting him a month later, which was at Armageddon 99. He finally won the Intercontinental Championship belt and made her tap out. They wound up shaking hands backstage after the match, and that ended their feud. Psych. So 3 weeks later, still in the same month, December, they ended up in a match for the Intercontinental Championship belt, and they actually double pinned each other. So the week after, it was deemed that they were both the Intercontinental Champion, and they both would share the duties of defending the Intercontinental Championship belt. So their rivalry culminated at Royal Rumble 2000, where Chris Jericho finally would be the undisputed Intercontinental Champion, and he pinned Chyna to finally deem himself as the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. So that was her 3 biggest feuds that she had as far as with men wise, and Chyna definitely had done like a lot of firsts in WWE. As you all know, Chyna is inducted into the Hall of Fame as a group into DX. She's still not inducted into the Hall of Fame solo wise. With the accolades that she has that no other woman in WWE has, she is definitely more than deserving of a Hall of Fame solo induction into the Hall of Fame. I believe that it is not too late, even though they have made in WWE.com a custom Intercontinental Championship belt made in her memory. But I feel like she still needs a solo induction into the Hall of Fame with the accolades that she have, that no other woman have in WWE. Being the first Intercontinental Champion, being a woman, and competing in the Royal Rumble, competing in a King of the Ring tournament. There's no way in the world you could tell me that she doesn't deserve to be a solo induction into the Hall of Fame. Chyna have broken down barriers and broken doors and opened doors and made a way for a generation of women to want to become a pro wrestler. And I feel like it is not too late to honor her memory and give her flowers, even though she is not with us. Rest in peace, Chyna. And that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for joining me and liking, share, and all that other good stuff and helping me grow my channel. Peace. I'm out.